Okay, so we're going to do a review about the various watercolor brushes. I have all round except um, for this one. You know what? Just let's focus on the round. I have the Wonder Force round brush. I think this is the premium package. And I also have in size 12. I have also in size 12 the Princeton Heritage round brush. And I have size 12 Etcher lab brush round. I have size 10 carries the 2400 series brush round. And I also have the silver Balck Velvet size 10 brush. And I'm not sure if it's a fair comparison to get the mop Neptune. Maybe it's not. So I'm just going to take the mop away and bring over the Neptune, Princeton Neptune series, the size 6, because I don't have bigger size. And I also have the Wonder Force detail brushes size 6. And this is a tiny 3/0 Princeton brush, the Velvet Touch. And I'll let you know why I'm bringing this tiny little brush in here. Okay, so all in all, I like all the brushes. I like all the watercolor brushes the same. But I just want you to know the difference between all of them. Okay, so starting with the velvet one, if you put it in water, it does absorb a lot of water, this brush. So you can have to get used to or familiarize yourself by how much water your brush takes. So I'm just dipping it in water and draining the excess water here, taking a little bit of paint that I already mixed, and you can see this brush holds a lot of water and a lot of paint, and it's very versatile. You can use it for very thin line here, or you can use it to create such as beautiful, very beautifully looking petals like so. So this is a very nice brush that you can use for floral painting. And when I had them, I really liked the size. When I have them. I really like the smaller size more than the bigger size in terms of brush strokes and results. But anyways, that's the brush strokes that it creates. So if I'm going to show you like the tip, belly, and up, that's the effect that you're getting with those brush. Now, if you move on to the Wonder Forest, so just wetting, making sure it's wet, and then I'm just gonna drag some paint, and you can see that it actually absorb the whole thing out of the palette. So it does absorb a lot of water and pigments and holds it in. And if we're just going to try to make one line here and then create that appearance, you can see that the pigments is more saturated with this brush than it was with the Balck Velvet brush. So I'm just going to make sure that I have a very nice petal of paint. So we're just making sure that we're fair in our comparison here. So that's my petal here. And you can see that the brush has a lot of pigment now that I can just drain it, and it still holds a lot of water and pigment. And again, I'll show you how the brush strokes are really nice and expressive, and it holds a lot of pigments and water, and I can go through a lot of brush strokes, and I still have pigments, and I still have enough water in here. So that's one thing that's beautiful about the Wonder brushes is that they're very flexible, and in the same time they hold a lot of water and pigments. You can see the difference between this and this guy. Okay, so that's the Wonder Force. Now if you come to Princeton Heritage, the brush is wet. Princeton Heritage, you can see it's like it really absorbs the pigment and water very well. Like I'm almost out of what I have here. And you see how I'm making sure that I have enough water and pigment, or enough water, enough color in my brush. So it is saturated. It is saturated with paint. Okay, so coming along here again, I like this brush because it's really flexible. But one thing in this guy over here, I need to make sure, like I'm naturally making sure it's really wet. Like you have to make sure that your brush is really wet. So after each stroke, I make sure that do I need to have more water or not. But once you have the right amount of water and pigments, it actually flows very nicely, and it gives you very, very nice shapes. So again, this and this pretty much the same. You can see here, maybe the Wonder Force is a little bit more stiffer than this guy over here. This guy is really, really loose. Whereas the Wonder Force is a little bit, I feel, is a little bit stiffer. But again, it's a very, very subtle difference that you can barely notice it. If you come to the Etcher Lab brushes, which they come in a set of 10 for watercolors, Etcher Lab brushes, it's slightly stiffer than the Princeton and the Wonder Forest one. And if I want to show you again, they can give you a very nice flexibility, but you have to make sure that you're loose, like you're not very tight in your grip with them, because the brush itself is not going to give you that looseness. But the one thing that you notice with the Etcher Lab ones is that they do take a lot of pigment and water, and I noticed that like right away when I start using them, because they're very like they like among all the others, Etcher Lab are the ones that really takes the pigments and water without compromising the saturation of the paint. So I really like the Etcher Lab. Okay, speaking of taking a lot of colors and pigments, the Neptunes ones are also very, like they take a lot of pigments and a lot of water. And you can see here when I'm trying to make a leaf here, it is super duper saturated. But one thing in the Neptune is that they're not very flexible. And I feel like if I want the brush to do anything, like I have to literally, like it's not going to be spontaneous, like you have to be literally guiding the brush where it goes. And the other thing with the Neptunes, I find them, they don't give me that very thin line. So I think they're good for washes, or if you're kind of a person who likes to do the roses more of like, you know, this style where it's more rounded rather than spiky like that. These are the brushes for you. But I do like Neptunes if I'm doing washes, or if I'm doing any painting that I need a saturated color to come to the paper, then the Neptunes are my go-to. They're not very flexible though. Like I don't enjoy painting flowers with the Neptune series for that purpose, because I like the flowers to just kind of be spontaneous and loosey and stuff like that. Now Cummings to Curry's was the cheapest among them all. So the Curry 2400 series, I find those brushes were surprisingly really good brushes. They hold a lot of water and they hold a lot of pigment as well. And you can see here, like they're very flexible. I like them. For their price, I think they're amazing, especially if you're someone who's just starting on the watercolor journey and you're not sure, you don't want to spend a lot of money on brushes. I think having this brush is a very good option. Here you can see it gives you a really saturated color, not as saturated as the Neptunes, but you know, quite similar. I really like them for their price. They're really good brushes, considering the price value of them. Now the Wonder Forest detail brush, the handle is a little bit longer than the rest of her other brushes, but you can see here that the bristles are stiff, and I think it's they are stiff because they're supposed to be detail brushes. So I think they're good in if you're painting something that is small, or you want them to be more defined, because the purpose of them that they're detailed from the detailed series, so it's a little bit stiff. So if you like the Princeton snap brushes, then this is something that you will like, but it's really stiff. It's almost like the stiff version, in my opinion, to the Neptune ones. Neptune's a little bit softer, but this is stiffer. You really have to know what you're doing or where you're going with your brush in order to get the results that it's needed there, your needed results. The Velvet Touch, this is a tiny brush, but the reason I'm bringing the Velvet Touch, because the Velvet Touch comes in a variety of sizes. They are so soft and so smooth on the paper. Like, this is what I can do with the size, this tiny brush. So I can only wonder, or can only imagine what you can do with the bigger brushes. And they are so, so soft on the paper. Like, they're very nice and dreamy to work with. Um, I got the Velvet series here for some really tiny detailed work that I used to do, or that I did for a client. So uh, maybe later I'll buy the bigger brushes. But there you have it, my review for all the brushes. So Etcher, they come in a pack of 10, including the flat ones. You can see them in the Etcher Lab. I'll put the link to that. Those you can buy them also in a pack or individually from Wonder Forest. I'll put the link to it. These you can buy them individually, mix and match as well from Wonder Forest. I'll put the link to it. This you can buy it alone, and so is these. You buy them individually from the art stores. And they actually come in a pack of 3, which is size 6, size 2, and size 10 of that. Those are really fun to experiment with. They're really, really fun. But if you're a beginner and you want one brush, I would go with Curry's brush. It's less than $7, I think. I'll have to check, but I'll put the link in the list. Okay, there you have it. Those are the reviews for my round brushes. I use mostly round brushes. Oh, that's a flat one. I use mostly round brushes. Which one is my favorite? It really depends on the mood. I love them all equally.